Hi, thank you for joining us today for this tech role model session. Today I'm joined by Meghana Garg, who is the Business Relationship Manager for Technology at the British Heart Foundation. Hi Meghana, nice to meet you.
Hello Kevin, good to meet you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to join these Women in Technology role model sessions. Looking forward to our discussion.
Thank you. So I think what will be great for our listeners is to just have an understanding really of what your current job is, because job titles mean different things from one organisation to another. So if you could just give us an overview of exactly what you do in the business, where you sit in relation to the other IT stakeholders, that would be great.
Sure, why not? Let's start on there. So I don't know how many of the people here would be familiar with business relationship managers if they have it in their organizations. Sometimes business relationship managers would have the title of business partners. So it's interchangeable based on the organization structures. Where I sit in is generally pretty senior in the organization. So I report into Director of Technology Engagement, who reports into the CIO, who sits on the exec board at British Heart Foundation. And I interact across all the executive level and director level stakeholders equally down to the SMEs in the different business areas. In terms of the role I perform, I sit within technology formally. However, I am very much the liaison between technology and the business. So I'm a voice of business into technology and technology into business. So lots of soft skills and communication, influencing, negotiation is what I have to use on a day-to-day basis. Let me go into a little bit about what business partnering or business engagement helps drive in a organization scenario. So talk about some key aspects of my day-to-day job. It involves understanding the business needs in the first place, helping them to work on a more strategic level, so start thinking not just the immediate needs, but what do they want to achieve in 1 year, 2 year, 3 year to 5 year plans. Having a good understanding of the technology roadmap and strategy, so I can then help align the two together, bring the right people to carry out that role with right expertise, drive the business change, and influence the demand and the roadmaps in both technology and even digital and BI nowadays. So business partner or business relationship manager, in that role, I usually would interact with technology teams internally and externally. So I work with external partners on innovation, bringing those ideas back into the business. But I work very closely with architecture and digital teams, with program portfolio delivery teams, product teams, or operations, security, commercial procurement teams. And on the other hand, I work closely to influence, steer, shape and drive the business areas that usually are allocated to me on a day-to-day basis. In my current role, I focus more on the retail side of the business, but have some engagements with the healthcare side as well in the interim. Yeah. I hope that's a good summary.
No, it is. Thank you. So you speak there. You mentioned the skills that you need for that role in terms of the communication piece and things. You didn't mention anything very technical, but you did mention like engagement with like technical teams like architecture and things like that. So how technical do you think you need to be to be successful in a senior BRM role?
I don't think so. There are different routes to get into BRM role and a senior BRM role. My journey started from a technical position, but you don't have to be. You have to have a technical acumen to be able to understand the technology speak and have some interest in what's happening in the technology world. But equally, if you know the right people and you have the appetite for it, you can develop a high level of knowledge. I'm not an expert on all the technologies. I'm an expert to know who do I need to call in and lean in on when it's needed. So it's knowing people in the organization is more important than knowing technologies in detail, but having a high level overview of technologies is important. But as I said, you don't have to start in a technical career. Say my counterpart at British Heart Foundation, he didn't start on a technical career path like I did. So I've got a very classic. I started my journey as a software engineer, moved into business analysis. I did a bit of pre-sales, bid consulting in between, ERP consulting, and then moved into business application manager, business relationship management. I've done a bit of project management. So I've got a very technically oriented career path from beginning. But do I know the specifics of how a cloud implementation would take place? Not really. But I know the architects who would know it.
Yeah. So you mentioned there you came from a technical background. So for the benefit of our audience, you studied computer science back in India, and then you had a short period with Tech Mahindra in India, and then moved to the UK. Firstly, I guess what prompted the move to UK, and how did you find that transition? You know, and starting work in a different country.
So I think the initial prompt was more driven by the personal need to have a better work-life balance. And I knew that UK or Europe in general respects that personal work-life balance a lot more. And so both me and my husband decided to take the risk and move to UK. But saying that, my husband he had worked in UK in the past, so it wasn't totally walking on a clean slate. But I did leave my job in India. I made a conscious choice to leave my job in India, come here, start it all again. And in many ways, I was fortunate to find a position within. I think I was here in this country for maybe 2 or 3 weeks when I first landed into my first role, and which was a contract role given to me on a 2 week basis that they would evaluate me because I didn't have a very detailed, specific UK based experience behind me. But in that meantime, I managed to secure myself a permanent role at Sainsbury's as a business analyst, and that's when I decided this is the career path I want to take. So, in many ways, I would say opportunities just knocked at the door at the right time, and I was quite fortunate as well.
Yeah. So I have a lot of conversations with people who try and make the journey the other way around. So they have a perm role and they want to move into contracting. You know, we hear things like contractors, especially before R35, get paid quite well, and sometimes it outweighs the perm benefits. What was it for you that made you think that the permanent route was the right one at the time, and rather than taking that contract extension?
So I think a couple of factors played a key role in my decision at that time. One of the key ones was it was in the first 2 to 3 years of my career, so I wanted to grow in the culture in UK, in the professional culture. I wanted to understand the work life here. I wanted to embed into it. As a contractor, you go in, you focus on the scope of the work, and then you go out or carry on to the next job, whether at the same place or a different place. So I think that was one thing. Being ambitious to grow into the same organization and grow into a career path was one. Other part was I did not, before coming to UK, I worked into a consultancy, and I did not want to be in a position where I've got a 3 month contract. I don't know whether it would be extended or whether I would need to take up a different contract and travel to a different part, even if it's within the UK. So I wanted a bit of that stability. And also, I'm talking 15 years ago, it's very dependent on the culture at individual organizations. In some organizations and teams, contractors are embedded as part of the team. In others, they're not. For me, it was really important that wherever I'm working, I'll build the relationships and friendships. And all of those things actually helped me made a decision at that point in time. And yes, I could have, the contracting side was more, I want to stay and keep earning that money, versus I want to look at the longer term for me and what career I want to build in. And I made a choice to build a career rather than just focusing on the money side of it.
Yeah, so that was that permanent role was with Sainsbury's in the UK as a BA. And I guess when we look at the challenges that face women in technology, I think you had one of those probably 2 years into that role where you became pregnant. So how did you find that experience from taking maternity leave while still developing what was quite a young career at the time?
To be honest, Sainsbury's was a really good organization. They really supported me through the maternity, even through the pregnancy and the maternity. In 2 years, I did know that I knew a lot of people there, a lot of working mothers there who chose to work part-time or reduced hours to fit it around their young families. And I never felt that it would be a risk. Also, at that point in time, I was working in the Oracle ERP space, which was a niche area. So I knew that even if I take more than 6 months on maternity, pretty much I would come back to my role. Because I was part of the big transformation program they were doing on Oracle at that point in time. And I did know that there would be next phases to it. So it wasn't taking a really big risk. And I think in many ways it was good to go through it early on, because I've been through that pain of being a working mom. I went through a phase of working part-time for 3 years. After that, more than 3 years actually. And then when I was ready to go back full-time, I was fully prepared to go back full-time and fulfill my ambitions back into workplace. So it kept me in that space.
Yeah, and you were there for about 7 years, and then you moved, and in that new organisation, that's when you began your BRM part of your career. How did that transition happen? How did that opportunity get presented to you, and how did you realise that actually it was the BRM piece that you enjoyed more than the actual BA role?
Yeah, I think a couple of things, a bit controversial, but as a business analyst, you do have to do a lot of documentation, and I still have to do documentation. But is that the part of the role I really enjoyed? No, that's not my favorite part of the role as a business analyst. What was my favorite part of the role was interacting with business, helping them identify the solutions or the path to meet their goals. And that's when the opportunity came in at UK Power Networks. It was a much wider role. And yes, I had an experience of working as a lead BA at Sainsbury's, so working across multiple small to medium projects at a time. And I took a risk. And the hiring manager took a risk as well, knowing that I've done lead BA but not a BRM role in the past. So I joined as a business application manager. And then eventually the role was transformed into a business relationship manager. So that's when the BRM roles just started coming into this country. So I was very much an early adopter of it. But knowing that I enjoyed the people's and engagement side of the skills and having that width of experience across made it easier. And yes, it was a step up. It was a point where I could have said no, and I could have stayed with another business analyst opportunity or lead business analyst opportunity. But I chose to walk out of my own imposter syndrome and accept it, and thought, what have I got to lose? Even if I don't deliver to the expectation, I'll still learn and grow with that experience. And I'm glad I did it, because it has definitely paid for me.
Yeah, so BRM is an interesting one because in different businesses it kind of plays a different role and sits at a different level. So I know that at JLL it was more of a direct level role. I'm guessing when you first came into BRM and it was a new thing, it didn't quite have that standing in the organisation. I think I know the answer to this, but where do you think it should sit, and what do you think the benefits are for it to having that more senior element to it?
I think the benefits of it should sit in at a senior level, and the reason I feel that is because it gives autonomy and authority for a BRM to challenge the business where need to be, and then BRM is seen as an equal partner with the business, and that's why it's important for that role to sit at a senior level and into an independent. Many times BRM reports into a CIO directly, but different organizations have different structures. So currently I report into Director of Technology Engagement, and that works well because I have direct access to the CIO, but equally the whole engagement team operates independently of the delivery functions and architecture and operational functions. So our focus is purely making sure that the business engagement is done properly and embedded into the organization. So it's important for it to sit independent of the other functions so that we can operate with that autonomy. And generally it sits pretty senior in the organizations as well. And it varies depending on the culture and organization size and the team size. In JLL, as you rightly said, I was operating at a director level. I had a global role. I did do a role of product manager along with business partnering at JLL. So that was, again, I wanted to try product management, but equally wanted to keep the engagement sides of it into the wider context. So that was quite a little segue into product management for me. And I would say lots of the skills between BRM and product managers are transferable. So it's what you enjoy, being focused more on one product and looking at the product life cycle from the inception versus looking across a business line and multiple projects at a higher level. And it's a matter of personal interest.
Yeah. In those organizations where the BRM doesn't necessarily have that, what we would class as the right seat at the table, do you think there's anything that the individuals in those roles can do to, to raise the profile of the role?
Couple of things. I think it's important to have that buy-in into a BRM role top down. And sometimes you just have to keep gradually nurturing it to get the seat at the table. Let's say I haven't always got seat at the table as a BRM when I started, but once you start showing the value, then gradually you will carve your way into it. So you would have to find people who are in support, people who are not so much in support of it, and use your influence to make it work, but make sure that you are creating that buy-in within the technology part of the organization as well. Sometimes things what I do and joining any new organization is where leadership teams can be quite wary of. Do we want someone from technology coming sitting at the table with us at our leadership meetings? Do we want to trust that person? And there are ways to where you can just ask for attendance as an observer initially, and then gradually build it up. And once you show them that they can trust you and you have their best interest and organization's best interest, they will open up to it. But yes, buy-in from top down is quite important. So building a business case for a BRM role properly is important. So if it's not there in an organization, my recommendation would be to work on it and see how you can make it happen with your CTO or CIO.
Yeah. So one of the biggest challenges you probably faced, I imagine, is the redundancy that happened during the COVID pandemic. But before we get to that point, are there any other key things that stand out in your career as, really difficult parts of that journey that you could give people advice on how to overcome if they were to experience the same thing?
Sure. I think I'm a very positive mindset person. So in hindsight, everything seems to have fallen in place. And at those points in time, also, I kept saying to me, right opportunity would come at the right time. And I think when I think of the difficult times, I think definitely coming from India, making a choice to leave my job and starting afresh wasn't easy. Definitely wasn't easy in a different culture. But what played to my advantage was at that point in time being open to the opportunities and being open to the package and where I wanted to work. And as long as I knew my skills and I had the flexibility, it did work. I think in terms of giving an advice, one big advice I would give is say yes more than you say no. There's always some learning in when you take yourself out of your comfort zone and do it. If you have doubts, talk to your mentors, talk to your friends, talk to the ex-colleagues you've worked with, and make an informed choice. It doesn't mean that just because you don't have a job in hand, you would just take. Some people might have to take anything that comes their way first because of the circumstances, but you shouldn't feel forced into it. You should still make an informed choice of it.
Yeah, you mentioned mentors there. So what part have other people, mentors, sponsors played in your career?
A big part, actually. I've had formal mentors and informal mentors as well. And I think to move and navigate successfully in the organization, you do need to have internal sponsors, directly or indirectly, people who would speak up for you, people who would spot opportunities for you and put your name forward, help you with your confidence if you are not sure. But equally, with mentors, think it's you have to I would say even people who have mentored me, they probably, some of them might not even realize that they have mentored me indirectly, like and it's important to acknowledge all that, and it's important to ask for help as well, and ask for advice, and I think having a formal mentoring relationship is quite useful. I find it useful because then I can use a person as a sounding board at times and ask for guidance and advice in terms of how to navigate my career. There is always something to learn. And I am a mentor currently, and I am a mentee, and I think you grow, whether you're a mentor or a mentee, you always grow and learn. It's You can get to a certain point in your career without those people behind your back. But I think after a certain level in your career, if you're ambitious, you want to grow, you do definitely need mentors and sponsors to make it happen for you, because a lot of opportunities come quietly. You wouldn't even see them before they've been filled.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned there that you're a positive person, and naturally that's made things fall into place for you. But obviously the redundancy, which I assume was an element of COVID link there in November last year. How did you maintain focused and positive throughout that 5 month period between then and the role you've found yourself in now?
I wouldn't lie, it wasn't easy. I've never been through something like that in my career. Till that point, it has always been my choice to stay or leave or move on. So I had to work a lot on myself. I am very fortunate to have a very supportive network of family, friends, and ex-colleagues and mentors, and I could reach out to them. And it I would say it allow yourself time if you're going through it to process it, to process the emotions, because it does come with it, and no matter how hard you try, it feels personal, and it's not many times personal. But equally, for me, having the focus to find the next role was there. I treated that time, um, very much like I'm working. I have a plan in place, looking at opportunities to apply, preparing for interviews, and going through, and also utilizing it to just recharge myself. Because looking for a job when you don't have a job in hands and you're not working can is a full-time job, but equally it can be very overwhelming, and it can really start consuming you. So you do need to make sure you're utilizing that time to be able to do things that you like, but equally use that time to train on your soft skills, additional skills. So I did a lot of that, but I also used the time in the lockdown when I could go out for one-on-one walk with friends, and I had the time and the liberty of doing it. So I reached out to my friends to go, is anyone free today for a walk? And even if it's a half an hour walk, things like that really helped. Having Christmas in between that time and consciously deciding to switch off, spending time with my children was really, really helpful. And then I had few opportunities going on, and when BHF came in, it just seemed like the right one for me. And because I firmly believe something which is meant for me would come my way, and it may sound cliche, but it always happens, and there is always something positive that I would see from it. And I'm very pleased that I accepted the offer, because before this, I've never worked for non-profit, but equally, I've worked for all the commercial organizations. And I would say there is something about working for an organization where you know every moment you're spending, every penny you are saving or helping to save or playing your role is in some ways helping a life somewhere in the world. And I think that mentally is a real big achievement for me personally.
Yeah, and how so that was a conscious decision, given a few options to choose a not-for-profit life. Is it what you expected? Yeah. Are there any parts of it that are particularly challenging?
I think what I didn't expect was how hungry they would be for change and for new technologies and adopt it, and how complex the whole structure would be in the organization. What I didn't know and didn't appreciate before joining in was non-profit charity organizations are fully regulated, and also they just don't have the board of directors. They have board of trustees over the board of directors, and that and there is a stringent management of income and spend, because to maintain a charity status, there is a regulatory limit to what they can invest into managing support and providing the support, and rest of the proportion of it would have to go back into the research in the society. So yes, it is. I'm glad it's more complicated, keeps me busy. No day is same day as the previous day here. And it's a very exciting space to be. In fact, I think we have a BRM position going on at the moment. So if anyone is really keen, I'm more than happy to take the conversation offline.
That's a good plug. A good plug. So I'm going to throw it open to the audience to see if there's any questions. Obviously, there's lots of themes that we've discussed there, from the whole BRM role as a concept, moving to a different country to start a career, taking a break from that leave, the difference between commercial and not-for-profit world. So there might be a few things that people want to pick up on. While we give people a chance to put their hand up or type anything in the chat, is there any other areas that you'd like to discuss, Meghana? Any final tips that you'd give our audience?
Let's take the questions, and then I can probably close it with 3 or 4 key learnings.
Yeah, I don't know if Joy's unmuted. I don't know if that's intentional. Joy, did you have a question? Okay, we're all very shy. Maybe you communicate everything perfectly, Meghana, and there's nothing else to add.
Oh. I would say if anyone wants to reach out to me, please connect on LinkedIn and reach out. I'm more than happy to chat one-on-one it would be useful.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you, Meghana. So, like I said, unless there's any final words of advice from yourself, Meghana, I'd like to just thank you for spend the time today to talk us through that and share some of that experience. And I think for me, the key takeaway, as it quite often is that whole point about say yes more than you say no and be open to opportunities. I think one of the things that we're all, myself included, are victims of is sometimes self-doubt and not taking that chance when it's presented to you. So I think that's massively important. So thank you very much for your time today, Meghana.
Thank you so much for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to share it at this forum. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you everyone who has joined or taken time out of their busy schedules to join me in and to listen to me talking. And yes, I think just take opportunities, open the doors, and if one door closes, the next one opens up, and you never know where it would take you. So hope you all find it useful as I did. And as I said, if you want to reach out separately, please do so.
Excellent. Thanks, Meghana.